she had us think about the scene of where Peter is in that boat. She asked us, where do you see yourself in that scene? And I said, I can't get out of the boat. And that's when I found, oh my goodness, I have lived my whole entire Christian life not trusting the Lord.
Wow.
Okay.
No, that's good.
But it's hard, and it's a battle that Jesus and I have on a daily. We were made for Eden, right? This was never God's perfect design. God's perfect design wasn't for us to live in a world of so much hurt and pain. And we've been praying about it, and we just started to feel like this weird shift. And I'm sure I've talked to a lot of other people that have moved to Tennessee, and they're like, yeah, it was really weird. It was like Tennessee wasn't on the radar, and then all of a sudden it was.
Welcome to So We Said Yes, the podcast where we share real, raw, and redemptive stories about people feeling prompted by God and choosing to say yes. From quiet nudges to bold relocations, dreams and visions, you'll hear firsthand how God is moving on the hearts of families, dreamers, and kingdom builders all over the globe as they feel called to Maury and Williamson County, Tennessee. I'm your host, Dusty Jenkins, and this is where faith meets action and obedience shapes legacy. So if you've been looking for a sign, this might just be it. Let's dive in. All right, I'm so excited to be back with episode 6. This is brought to you by Tommy Jaggers. God is on the move, and wow, I've got Rhonda Velez here today. She is a trauma-informed coach, an author, a podcaster, and we just recently connected, like last 24 hours, I feel like, so this came together very quickly. I feel like that's ties in well with the theme of this podcast.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. It's funny because you sent me an email and you're like, do you have time to podcast? And I was like, who is Dusty Jenkins? Because I do get like stuff in my email and I'm like, what spam is this, right? I was like, and then I went back and looked and I was like, oh, yes, he has the podcast. Yes, we were supposed to do this. And then it kind of got delayed. So,
that's right. Yeah, because like 10 months ago, you had originally connected all the way back then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, life got crazy and things just, take off, and, financial commitments. Like, I was more of a passion project, a dream that God had put on my heart. And I just had to like shift my focus for a season, and now we're just so honored and blessed to have some support behind it to bring these back to life, and
sure.
eager people to share their stories.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
How long have you lived in Spring Hill, Tennessee?
We moved here in October of 2021.
2021. Okay. And when that happened, like, take me back to the moment when you were kind of ready to make that jump. Like, how did Spring Hill end up on the map for you?
Yeah, we had kind of come out of a really difficult season. I think 2020 was difficult for everybody, but we were going through some things with my oldest daughter, and she was just really in a very low place. And we'd been praying about it, and we just started to feel like this weird shift. And I'm sure I've talked to a lot of other people that have moved to Tennessee, and they're like, yeah, it was really weird. It was like Tennessee wasn't on the radar. And then all of a sudden it was. And my brother had lived here at the time for, I think, like 10 years. And we had come to visit him a few times. And I remember the last time we visited him, I think was like in 2018. And we had joked, and we had gone to, because my parents at the time also, they lived in California as well. And we had taken a picture in front of a house, and we were just joking. We're on our way back to the airport, and we were like, we're moving to Tennessee. This is 2018. And my mom was like, no, you're not. And I need my girls here because, we were very close. And I was like, we're just kidding. We would never move to Tennessee. And then fast forward, 2020 happens. 2021, I start to kind of feel this tug, like maybe Tennessee is the place we're supposed to be. And I don't know why. I just felt like God was saying, it's time to go. And so I talked to my husband about it. He is a little bit more resistant to change than I am. Doesn't love change. His whole family lives in California as well. And we kind of started talking about it in January. And then in June, we decided, you know what, let's just go take a drive. We lived like 30 miles from Carmel, which Carmel, California is one of the most beautiful places in the world. And we took a drive, and on our way there, I was like, maybe we should just go visit. Maybe we should just go see what it would be like to live there, and go during the summer when it's humid and hot.
When God invited Tommy Jaggers and his family to Middle Tennessee, he said yes. As a realtor and a founding member of the Healthy Home Network, Tommy believes that finding a home is only part of the journey. He helps families navigate the transition and understand what a healthy home can look like. Avoid common hidden hazards, build local community, and get connected to trusted local resources. His heart is to serve beyond the sale, with wisdom, prayer, relationships, and a genuine desire to see your family thrive here. Reach out to Tommy Jaggers and start your Tennessee journey with confidence.
So we can see if we can do it. And so I called my brother, and he was literally my travel agent as we're on our way to Carmel. And I'm like, can you book tickets? Or first of all, are you free from this day to this day? And he said, yes. And I said, okay, can you find tickets on Southwest? Here's my numbers, blah, blah, blah. He booked all the flights for us. We sat at Pebble Beach overlooking the ocean. And we were like, okay, let's do this. Let's go see if we could do this. And we were literally on a plane that Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you land in Tennessee.
Land in Tennessee. I actually ended up connecting with a really great realtor through a Facebook friend that I didn't even know that lived in Los Angeles that had moved to or her dad had moved to Tennessee, I think at the time. I don't even remember. We sat down with them. We shared our story with them and what like my daughter had been going through and what we had been going through as a family. And I'll never forget, he said something, and he said, because I said, look, I don't want to be running away from anything. I want this to really be what God wants us to do. And he said, sometimes you just need a reset. And I was like, And we left that coffee shop and we're like, all right, here we go. Wow. And by the time we got on the plane, 5 days later, I was literally signing documents to purchase a home that was being built. So,
wow.
Yeah.
5 days, that's
yeah,
crazy.
It was insane.
Yeah.
It was an insane 5 days. But I'll never forget, as we were landing back in San Jose, it was me and then my youngest daughter and my oldest daughter, and then my husband was kind of sitting across on the other side. And my youngest daughter, as we were landing, looked at my oldest daughter and she goes, this isn't our home anymore. And I was like, man, because that was my one thing. My oldest daughter was already, she was out of college, but my youngest daughter, it was her senior year of high school.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't want to disturb. I was like, I'm going to screw her.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to totally move her whole life. But COVID was still very much real in 2021 in California, and they were still doing online school. So she was actually able, it worked out so that she was actually able to finish high school virtually. And then we flew back in June for her graduation.
Oh,
so
cool.
She didn't miss out on prom. We flew her back for prom. She didn't miss out on her graduation. And yeah, it just kind of
I love all those details.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Still fall into place. Those are the things that you begin to worry about, and that God's got his hand and kind of orchestrating. But I love that you kind of mentioned, your realtor said, sometimes you just need a reset. And one of my favorite quotes is, I picked this up from Stephen Furtick. It's sometimes God takes you the long way so you can pick up things along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And it's you just never know. And so, as a trauma-informed coach, there are some seasons that we go through in life that you could really use a reset, even in our life in Colorado, we were celebrating, I think it was our 15-year anniversary, and life just becomes complacent after a while. You get into these mundane routines and all these things. And we just in Colorado, it just didn't feel like our spiritual freedom was what we were hungry for more, you know? And we never planned to be in Tennessee, ended up in Georgia. Long story short, it's been shared multiple times. Go back on previous podcasts and listen. But yeah, my wife was after that prayer meeting that we stumbled into downtown Franklin Square, she's like, I think God's calling us to Tennessee. And I'm like, I think you're crazy. And 45 days later, we're moved into our home. And it's it just happens so quick. And
yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I feel like we put our house on the market. We got back in July. Our house sold, and we left our first day here was October 1st.
Wow.
And so we rented a home for 8 months while our house was being built, which was such a sweet time now that I look back at it, because it was all of us living in the house, which we hadn't been because my oldest daughter had been in college. And so it was just a really sweet time. And we met, we're just still trying to find our footing.
Yep.
I feel like, I've been here 5 years. And I feel like it's been hard. I'm not going to say that oh yes, it was awesome. And, finding new community is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think finding your people is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people like to glamorize it. Like, we moved. I mean, it's such a brave thing for people to move across the country. A lot of people just cannot do it. I fared better. My husband has had the hardest time with adjusting to new. My parents ended up moving here to Tennessee with us. So I put my house up for sale. They put their house up 2 weeks later. And they sold right around the same time. And so we all moved here. But my husband's family was all in California. And so I think the adjustment of routine for him was different. And I think it just kind of hits people differently.
Yeah, no, that's true. So take me to a moment, maybe, fast forward, like it could be the first few months, it could be that first year, obviously there's those moments where you're like, did we do the right thing?
Yeah.
Oh, there's also the moments like, could you imagine if we had said no and we stayed? Like,
Yeah.
So is there a, because I feel like what happens is you do have that, like, almost the spiritual high, like, hey, we're committed, we're out there, we're there. Like, our first like week or two is like, it kind of felt like a vacation. We're just like hanging out, going to waterfalls, like exploring the area. But then as that like kind of wears off, you still have this feeling like, this isn't my home. I feel like I'm on an extended vacation. And like, at what point does it become home? Like, what was that transition period like for you guys?
I think for me, it was a little bit easier again because my family was here.
Yeah.
For my husband, I saw him starting to spiral into a little bit of depression. And my husband's like, he's the like steady Eddie. He's the fun one, right?
Okay.
And so I was a little concerned. And, I had a couple of people back home say, like, are you sure you made the right decision?
Really?
I know that it was the right decision. I still believe it's the right decision. But I think I started to question, like, oh, was this the right thing for us? Did we move too fast? Especially, I think, with the job thing. I mean, we both had established careers in California, and we were not sure. I mean, his career is really what ended up getting us here because they had a satellite office here in Tennessee. And so he transferred. I did not. So I came here and was hoping, like, really hope, God, that you actually have a job for me. And I ended up getting offered a job, which I stayed at for 2 years and then got laid off. And I was like, oh, did we make the wrong decision? But it's just interesting because God has stepped in every single time. Like, every single time I'm not trust. So I'm a recovering trust Jesus kind of gal. Like, I am like, I trust you, God, when things are going well, but when they go bad, I'm not sure that I trust you completely. And that has always been at the root of a lot of my issues with God. And this whole journey has made me have to trust Jesus. Like, every time we get into a situation where I feel like I'm unsure or I don't know, or was this the right decision? I have to just like close my eyes and say, I trust you, Jesus. I trust you, Jesus. Because it's really hard. Like, you're making decisions based on what you think the Lord has told you to do. And then you're like, wait, maybe that was my decision. Right? And we make those decisions on a daily basis. Like, with our children, with our moves, with whatever we might be doing, a job, whatever that might be. But I have to believe that God's hand is in it. And even if we make the wrong decision, trusting that he's going to make good out of it.
Right.
So I hope that answers that
You
question.
did. No, that was so good. And it brought up just such a really cool story that I just heard literally, I feel like it was last week, from a good friend of mine named John Copen, who's actually in the room behind the cameras today. But he was telling me this story about this guy on a tightrope. And he said, you know what the difference between faith and trust is? And I was like, I don't know. Like, tell me, He's like, this guy's got this tightrope across the Grand Canyon. And he's telling all these people, like, hey, do you guys have faith that I'm going to be able to like walk across this tightrope and get to the other side? And they're like, yeah, do it. He's like, all right, well, like, I'm going to get a wheelbarrow. And now you're going to get in the wheelbarrow. And do you trust me to get you across with me? And it's like, do you have the trust to get in the wheelbarrow? Or do you just have faith to let him do it,
Yeah.
And man, it's such a good analogy, because even when we came to move and it happened so suddenly, it was like, I use the analogy of like a foggy day. Like, you're trying to cross this like river with stepping stones, and all you can see is the stepping stone in front of you. You can't see 2 feet in front of you. It's just a blur. And you're like, God, like, is there a stepping stone even there for me to step on? Like, or are we going under? Like, and I think God calls us into the depths of the unknown sometimes. And that's where he does his best work, you know?
He does. And it's hard. I think it's really hard I think especially I grew up in church. And so you know all the things, right? But do you know them?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been the biggest journey for me. In 2020, when I was going to, I did a certification program to become a narrative trauma coach. And I'll never forget, she asked us one question, and I wept when she asked it, because she had us think about the scene of where Peter is in that boat and Jesus asked him to walk on the water. And she asked us, where do you see yourself in that scene? And she asked me, and I said, I can't get out of the boat. And that's when I found, oh my goodness, I have lived my whole entire Christian life not trusting the Lord.
Wow.
Okay.
No, it's good.
And God continues to test me in that area. Like, he continues to say, like, do you trust me enough with this that I'm going to take care of it? And it's still, like, to this day, it is still one of the hardest things for me to do. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think so many people struggle with it. They're not honest about it.
Right.
And we like to wrap a scripture around it and say a pretty prayer and think, okay, yeah, I'm good. But it's hard. And it's a battle that Jesus and I have on a daily, is, okay, you've given me this task, you've given me this thing. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to trust you that you're going to come through? Or am I just going to say, forget it, or try and control it on my own?
Right. That's such a good picture. Like, when I took myself to that scene when you were sharing your heart, and I was like, in the midst of the move, it's like, yeah, I was comfortable with maybe getting out of the boat, but like, I went under the water pretty quick. Like, I was like, you gonna grab my hand and pull me out and like help me walk on this water, or like you gonna let me go down with the fishes? You swimming with the fishes. But seriously, I mean, we both, like you guys, successful careers. My wife and I had a hair salon that she had started, like launched it right out of COVID, like it got shut down immediately when that happened. I had a successful business that started in 2010 and just built a solid book of clients. And it's like, when you leave that behind, it's like, you don't get to bring the book of clients with you. Right. We didn't build it to sell. Like, It's not like we could just let someone else take over it. Maybe I could have, but that's in retrospect. But you get out here and you really are, like, for us, it was starting at square one. It was like, wow, we are like starting over. We had no friends, no family, no connections, nothing. And you're like, all right, God, what are we going to do? And I'll never forget, I think it was the first Christmas. Like, we didn't know if we were going to have presents under the tree. We didn't know what it was going to look like. And finances got so tight. I actually had to invoice myself and get creative with running an invoice and a credit card so I could pay my mortgage that month. And I'm like, God, is this what we were called to? Like, there's got to be more than this.
You were calling us to before? Great. Terrific.
I thought I was getting called to like leave my career behind and start stuff in ministry and like all this stuff. And I just I saw the bank account start to plummet. And my wife's like, maybe your ministry though is really part of the creative that God has like breathed into you, and you can kind of do it hand in hand still. Don't completely abandon what you know and what you're good at. Like, you're a storyteller, get out there and tell. And so I just started sitting with the Lord, and I was like, God, like there's got to be community. And we went to a church, and I saw a big open green field, and I just saw kids playing kickball. And I was like, God, thank you for that picture. I was like, what if we were a homeschool family? And I was like, I bet I miss playing kickball. Like, I mean, as we get older, like, life is like, come on, let's go play some kickball. Right.
Right. And play is one of the things I've learned in trauma-informed coaching is how important play is, and how as adults we forget to play. Yeah. And I'm not great at it because I am I've got my calendar, I've got, everything in order, but I have learned through the coaching program that I've done to get outside. I remember one day, this is probably last year, and I told myself, I didn't tell anyone else, but I told myself, I said, next time it rains, no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to run outside and twirl in the rain.
Yes.
And it came down one night, And I got it from the couch. And my husband's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm going to go run in the rain. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, come record me. And I did. I went out and I just like put my hands out and just let it fall on me. And there's just something freeing about it.
This episode of So We Said Yes is brought to you by The Awaken House, a business that believes in faith, legacy, and community, just like the stories we share in this podcast. If you're looking for an amazing coffee shop to meet a friend, a business partner, maybe a new acquaintance, The Awaken House has everything you need, with quiet meeting rooms, creative studios like the one we're doing this podcast in. They have an amazing food truck on site and a beautiful backyard where they encourage families to come and picnic and have time together. Even if you're not here to purchase a coffee, they want you to come and use the space. Community is what The Awaken House is all about. Check them out at theawakenhouse.co. And let's get back to our story today.
Right? Like it feels so good. Kids don't have all those expectations on their shoulders when they're 4 or 5 years old. As they get older, we put a lot of expectations on them. Yes. You know, even 6 and 7, we're expecting them to, you know, perform at this high level, get a scholarship for this or that. I mean, at 7 or 8 years old, it's insane. But when they're little, they just go and they play and they're, you know, they're on their monkey bars, they're sliding down the slide, they're laughing. There's freedom in that. And I believe that God wants us to have that kind of childlike freedom, right?
Yes. It brings me to the rain story is just so perfect. That ties in really well to like, even when that was a confirmational piece for us, the sermon that I heard that spoke life into like, okay, God, this isn't my idea. This is like, yeah, I feel like that sermon was right for me, but obviously there's so many other people receiving from this too. But I'm like, hold on, I think you're telling me I can say yes. At the end of that sermon though, the worship team released a song all about like the fresh rain is coming, all this stuff. And I'm like, oh man, so it's refreshing to hear because like we love playing in the rain, and it reminds me of like as we're building friendship and that kind of thing out here, like my daughter was able to connect with some friends much quicker than my son, you know, and we got all of a sudden had these neighbors move across the street. And I mean, I think it was like 6 or 7 months had gone by before we actually made a solid connection. Finally, once we did though, like our sons are the same age and they've hit it off, and he got to experience his first rain, like being out. We go down to the creek and hunt for crawfish and stuff, and it starts downpouring rain. And this little young boy, I don't think had ever been out in the rain before, and he was getting you could just tell he was uneasy. Like maybe he wanted to go home. We're getting soaked, and I just asked him, I was like, "Hey man, like, are you okay? Do you want me to? We can take you back home. The only thing that's going to happen is we're getting more wet. Like that's all that's happening right now. You're safe." And he looks at me, he's like, "You can't keep me safe. Only God can keep me safe." And I'm like, "Hey, that's true, buddy." True. I'm like, let's just pray to God right now, you know? And so he actually led us in prayer, and he's like, I prayed this really sweet prayer, this little 6-year-old boy. And I'm like, this is so cool. But I kept asking him, "You sure you don't want to go?" And he's like, he actually said, he's like, "We'll surely die if we go home right now." Like it was just downpouring. I'm like, "Bro, we're not gonna die."
It's not that dramatic, but that's okay.
We finally, his dad comes down, meets us. He's like, "Man, I just want to make sure you guys are okay." You know, we walk him back up home, and his mom's on the front back. She's like, "Hey, Noah, say goodbye and thank you." And he goes from his house across the street. He's like, "Thank you, but no thank you." Like, okay, maybe you didn't like the rainstorm.
Like he prayed with us, but then he was like, "I don't ever want to see you again."
That's right. Yeah. We're just so blessed awesome. Though to see how those relationships kind of come to life, you know, in those moments where like maybe your husband's, you know, starting to feel like maybe depressed or spiraling, and you're like, "Man, how do I build community?" And I think not only is that the hope of this podcast, to bring people together, to say, hey, when you do get here, like there are people here that are eager to accept you with arms wide open. There are many people that we ran into it, like, you know, the whole too many people moving here, we don't want you type attitude. But like, I think there's more people looking to come and bring life to this area than to take from it. And
and I think, you know, it's funny because I'm trying to decide if I should say this or not. And you can cut this if you want, but I'm always very like, come sit at our table, everyone's welcome. And I agree with that to a certain extent. I do agree. Like, come to our table, everyone's welcome. But everybody does have different personalities, and everybody's not a good fit. So it's okay if you sit at someone's table and it doesn't fit. It's okay to sit at a different table. Like, it doesn't have to all be just, we're all like in the same boat, because I think everybody is at different seasons in life, different places in life. They might have different views in life, and that's okay too. And maybe
like it spicy, some people like it no spice.
And I think sometimes we can get very caught up in church culture with everyone's welcome. Come sit at our table.
Mhm.
You're welcome here. We're all family. All of those things are great. But I think a lot of hurt happens because there's an expectation that everyone
Yeah.
is going to fit into this certain place, right? And so I think as transplants here, one of the best things we can do is find people who are like-minded, who are also going to lift us up, who maybe motivate us a little bit. Because I always like to look for people who are smarter than me.
Yeah. Good.
Because I don't want to be the smartest person in the
Right.
room. And I also want people who have the same like value, like where are we going? What are we looking for in the next thing? And how are we helping other people? Like from our places of brokenness, I want to be able to help other people. Right now I'm talking to a gal, I don't even know her. But I was connected with her because she just lost her child. And because we lost our child in 2002, I just feel, I understand her isolation.
Yeah.
And the gal that connected me was like, she just feels super isolated. She feels like she has no one to talk to. And I'm like, who better than to sit alongside her and encourage her during this season, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think
No.
community, you heal in community, you do.
It's true. And I think you said so many good things, like there's been plenty of those situations where I think religion and relationship are two different things,
Yes.
and it's like you can say these are the metrics of a perfect community or the perfect church that I want, but maybe try I'd encourage whoever's listening to this to like set those metrics aside and just pursue the love of Jesus. Like
Yes.
that is going to trump everything that is gonna check all the boxes. I mean, you could have all the head knowledge in the world as a pastor's child.
Yep.
I'm sure that you grew up in it. It's like you can memorize every scripture and every Bible verse, but unless you have it here in your heart, and unless the love of God has truly enveloped you, like what is it for?
Yeah.
Like so pointing people back to Him through that and through these traumatic moments that you've walked through and many people have walked through, even our family has walked through, extreme loss. Like in those moments you can get angry at God. And I think a lot of people will point the finger at God, but it says that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Like God is not a God that is like orchestrating all of these horrible things to happen.
Right.
We just live in this fallen world. And I think looking back, like without God, I wouldn't have even been able to walk through the stuff that we've gone through.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always think about that too. And we were made for Eden, right? This was never God's perfect design. God's perfect design wasn't for us to live in a world of so much hurt and pain. And so because we live in this fallen world, we experience these really, really difficult things, and things don't make sense. And that's okay that they don't make sense. I think, even sometimes when you make a decision like moving across the country and you think, maybe I made a mistake. Like I said, God, even if you did make a mistake, even if it wasn't God's voice for you to move here, He's still going to use it for His glory. He's still going to use whatever mistakes that we make, in the long run for His glory. And the things that we've been through and the tragedies we've been through and the hardship that we've been through, I just see how God's worked things out for good. Even in the midst when it feels real dark. And believe me and God we have a very volatile relationship. Some days we're on talking terms and some days we don't talk.
Right.
Because some days I'm like, I'm really mad at you and we are not getting along today. So we're not talking. I'm not opening my Bible. I'm not speaking to you. And, of course, like one time I tried to go like without reading my Bible for a while because I was trying, kind of long story short, but my therapist was like, okay, Rhonda, you're a very check the box girl. Like, okay, if I do all these things right, then Jesus is going to give me all these things, right? And she goes, this might be really hard for you. She's like, I'm asking you not to read your Bible for like a week and see what happens. And I'm like, really? If I don't do my daily devotion, I might not go to heaven. And so I really tried.
Yeah.
But I found that like I craved the Word of God, which I think that exercise was so amazing because I was like, wait, this isn't a checkbox thing.
Right.
Like I actually miss my time with the Lord. And as funny as it seems, like that was probably the best exercise ever because then I found out that, this isn't me just trying to check a box. This is my real love for the Lord and the sweet time that I want to spend with Him. So
So true. That's why they call it the living word. It's like
Yeah.
it brings so much life, and it's like really the flowing river of anytime you open it, it's like, yeah, you hunger for it. You want
Mhm.
it more, and just to be in his presence, it's really powerful
Yeah.
stuff. So tell me a little bit about, as we get ready to kind of just wrap up a little bit, you're doing so many amazing things. You mentioned, 2002, you went through this really hard time. It sounds like that birthed this organization or
I
something where
did.
you're like helping other families that are going through loss, and you
Yeah.
you help them with getting their tombstones and stuff. And
Yeah.
like, tell me about your heart.
Yeah. So in 2002, our daughter passed away from a heart condition, a very rare heart condition. I was 38 weeks pregnant. And so she was, I mean, if you saw pictures of her, she was perfect. I mean, she had
Mm.
perfect pink skin. She was gorgeous, but her heart was very damaged. And so she passed away shortly after I delivered her, 2.5 hours after. And then 8 weeks after, I went back to work, back to my job. I thought, I need this job. I've got to get over my grief, because I feel like when people are in loss and grief, they're like, okay, just get me back to
Hmm.
normalcy, right? And I went back and I found my severance package letter on the photocopy machine.
No way.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me, God. Like, this is
It's
not
like you're taking
happening.
everything
Yeah,
from
you're
me.
just,
Yeah.
I mean, I joke because I'm like, I read the book of Job
Mm.
probably 20 times in that season. Um, but my husband and I, he ended up going to work like 3 jobs because I had lost my corporate job. And he was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So he was doing everything from mowing lawns to, side jobs, doing
Mhm.
electrician work and that kind of stuff. And, um, but in that season, it's interesting because looking back now, I'm like, God needed me to have some time to grieve.
Mm.
And I think had I had gone back to work, I probably would not have grieved.
Mm.
And so I was able to really take that time to grieve. And in that process, I would go to the cemetery and there's in California where she's buried, there's a location called Babyland, and it's where all the babies are buried. And I would walk through there and I would see mothers, and they would come and put on their babies' plots these styrofoam gravestones with little plastic letters, because they couldn't afford a real gravestone, because real gravestones cost anywhere between $600 to $1,000, depending on the cemetery, depending on, whatever. And obviously, when you have a baby that's passed away, you're not planning for a funeral. It's not like you had life insurance on
No.
them. So there's a lot of expenses that are incurred. I was very fortunate. I had my parents, they paid for a lot of things, but I would watch these ladies come and put these styrofoam gravestones, and then the cemetery doesn't allow them. So when the grass, or when the lawn maintenance people would come, they would take them and they would throw them by a tree. And so you would see all these like gravestones by a tree. And so then the moms would come and they would dig them out of there and go put them
Oh my
back. And
goodness.
I would watch this happen. And so I went home one day and I told my husband, I was like, we're going to start a nonprofit or an organization that helps parents purchase gravestones. And he was like, you don't have a job. And I'm working 3 jobs. And how are we going to do that? And I was like, don't worry about it. I'm a creative like you. I'm going to make soaps out of the kitchen, and I will make body scrubs and lotions, and I will sell them at
Come on.
craft fairs, and we will purchase them. And that's exactly what we did.
Come on.
So for a few years, I made sugar scrubs and bath scrubs and soaps out of my kitchen, and we ended up like buying gravestones for babies, and I started to walk alongside other women who were going through loss. And so when we moved here to Tennessee, I kind of sunsetted the organization because I was like, there's a lot going on right now. But we just relaunched it. So we're we're in mode to grow and
Come
to
on.
do some awesome stuff here. We did, the first year we moved here, I connected with this woman at a networking event, and she told me, hey, like, I have this thing called a cuddle cot. Do you know what
Yeah.
that is?
Yeah.
Do you know what a cuddle cot is?
Yeah, I think so we have a good friend, Heather Baker out in Colorado, very similar, like very end of the term, and delivered a stillborn, and they had, I think that I'm almost certain that's what it's called. It's
Yeah,
like a,
it's a cooling unit.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's this cooling unit so that you can have time with your baby,
Yes,
because
yep, that's
obviously,
exactly.
like,
Yep,
you only
yes.
have very limited time, especially because they're
Right.
young. And
Definitely.
so We had purchased one in 2020, and I was trying to get it into a hospital, but COVID, so there was nowhere for it to be. And so when we got ready to move, I had this cuddle cot box in my dining room, and I told my husband, I go, maybe this isn't supposed to be in California, because every single door is closed. I go, maybe this is supposed to be in Tennessee. So we brought the cuddle cot with us. It came all the way from California. And I met this lady at a networking event, and I said, look, do you know anybody at a hospital, that might need one? And she said, you know what? I do. And so she connected me with this lady, and I thought, I'll send her an email. Who knows if I'll hear from her, right? Literally, I'm not even kidding, like 10 minutes from the time I emailed her, she says, this has been on our wish list for years. Yes, absolutely. And so it was the first year we were here, and it was her birthday. It would have been Tiana's birthday, which was March 18th. We were able to give the cuddle cot to Nashville General. And so they have it there in there.
Wow.
Yeah. So, God,
Even those little
the
things,
little things, like the little things that God is in that we just forget. And we oh, I didn't realize that God was working that out.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
No, it's so cool. And I'm sure you have countless more stories to share along the way. 5 years goes by in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, it does.
What's like the latest, what's something you're really excited about? What's on the horizon for you? How can people, if they want to come alongside of you and support that,
Yeah.
how do people contact you? Tell me a little bit about, just what's next for you?
I am on social media on Reality of Life. It's called that for a reason,
Okay.
because we all know life is life. But I have a podcast for business leaders and entrepreneurs called Qualified for More. I also am doing an event. I'm not sure when this will broadcast, but I'm doing an event on June 13th. We'll be doing many more of them. It's called Yoke of Love. It's just a renewal and mindset resting kind of event where we're just going to sit, we're going to journal, we're going to do some body work, we're going to do some breathing exercises, we're going to just walk you through what rest really means. And yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot more of those events. I don't know what we're going to do with Tiana. It's called Tiana Project.
Okay.
You can find it on my website, rondavelez.com. We're kind of building out all the stuff for the nonprofit right now. Very, very new. But yeah, I'm excited to walk alongside women and men. I think men get kind of lost in the process of loss and grief, and which is where a lot of my husband's depression and anxiety came from, was he did not process his grief. So we're hoping that we'll be able to also help other men walk through the process with their spouses. And I just really want to see women walking to their calling and purpose and not get stuck in the loop of grief and just be stuck there forever.
Yeah, that's so good that you brought that up, because when we went through our loss, I took the mantle of oh, this is really hard. She's really struggling with this, but as the provider, I need to get back to work. That's how I felt like I was supporting, and all she wanted me to do was just sit there and hold her hand. You know, and it was I think if fathers could know that going out obviously getting the bills paid and stuff is important.
Yeah.
But did you sit there and just hold her hand and just let her know that she's going to be okay? Did you just take the time to be present? That didn't really happen for me. I almost viewed it as oh, this is just a distraction. This is just, the enemy's attacking us, and this is just to put us down. And we got to, like you said, I got to get back to work and
press through.
Yeah. It's just, and it was just, in retrospect, I wish I could have done it completely differently. But being able to talk through those with her along the way, it's hey, I wish you would have slowed down a little. Where were you, dude?
Right. Yeah. I mean, my husband was pretty much MIA. I mean, he really put himself into work. And I think a lot of men do that because we're not, as men, you guys aren't taught to process your emotions. And so you just think, well, I'm the provider. I'm going to power through. I don't need community. I think for community, it's really important for men to have community and a safe place where they can feel like they can share their feelings. Because you're not good at it. You're not good at sharing feelings. Men just aren't, doesn't come natural for them. You get a woman at a table and everyone's crying and sharing their feelings. And, men are very kind of surface level. So I think if you can go deeper, I think that's really where I see the biggest need. Because I'll be honest, our marriage has struggled, because he hadn't been able to be honest, he hadn't been able to be vulnerable. So there was a lot of things. And I mean, when you lose a child, I mean, the rate of divorce is really high.
Yeah.
And then you combine just regular life with it. Divorce rates are high anyway.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's just my heart. I don't know where God has me going. I'm just kind of,
One day at a time.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of getting out of the boat.
Yeah, come on. No, I love that. Well, I think well, on the topic of community, I'll wrap up with just even talking directly to the dads. Rewind to when I mentioned the kickball thing.
Yeah.
I said, we're homeschool. I'm just going to put a thing out in the community. Does anybody want to play kickball? And next thing you know, we had 30 homeschool kids showing up playing kickball. And then I just got this dream. It was like light on the hill. Right behind the Waken House over here is Battlefield Hill. And I was just like, God, what are you trying to speak to me with light on the hill, light on the hill? And I just kept seeing the cannon that's up there, and all the history. And I'm just like, there's something about that hill. And so I just started going out there in the morning at sunrise. And next thing you know, God's like, I want you to invite other dads to come up here with you and see if anybody responds. And so I put an invite out on the Facebook community. And over the last year and a half, there's been 50, 60 guys that it's never been like a massive group of us.
Right.
It's always been like a one-on-one type of friendship. It's how I meet, the guy behind the cameras right now. It's like the doctors that I've met. Like It's just always one guy that comes up that really just needs a friend.
Yeah.
And it's growing. There's, now there's 3 or 4 of us that, and some of them make burritos. And it's like, dude, this is awesome. What my vision is like, could we line that entire hill with dads that are just so dedicated to waking up in the morning and praying over the other dads that might be too depressed to get out of bed, to not know, how am I going to support my family today? I was invited, but I'm scared. It seems weird. I don't want to go. Guess what? We're here and we're covering you in prayer anyway.
Right.
We just want dads that are going to take back the land and take back their family and fight for what they believe in and be a friend and just say, you know what? We're not here to sell you anything. We're not here to do anything. We're just here to lift you up and support you. And it's going to be messy, but let's have it be messy together. And it's a lot better when you've got a support system.
Yeah, and if the enemy can take out, the leader of the home, he gets to win.
That's
so
right.
I think, men do really need to step up and be that for their families. As much as I'm a corporate girly, I can handle my own, but I also know how important a man in a home is for a family. And so, that's awesome. I think that is such a great thing that you're doing. And it's kind of funny that you said that, because I know we're going a little long here,
No, you're good.
but
You're good.
when I was living in California, this woman did this prophetic drawing, and she had me standing at the top of this hill, and she told me, you are a light on top of a hill.
No way.
And at the time, I thought, oh, well, we live kind of on a hill.
Uh-huh.
But now that you just said Spring Hill,
Right.
I was like, oh. So I just had an epiphany right now. I was like, I'm going to have to go back and listen to her prophecy, because I just think that's interesting. And that was probably 5 or 6 years ago before we moved.
Well, and look at the lighthouse that you've become in so many people's lives. It's just so amazing to you just never know what those prophetic words will come to be,
Yeah, it's not always instantaneous,
no,
right?
It doesn't quite make sense today, but
I know, believe me, I'm always reminding God, you know what? Somebody spoke this over me and you promised, so holding you to that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Rhonda. I can't wait to continue building a relationship with you. I'm going to tell everybody it's called Yoke for Love.
Yoke of Love.
Yoke of Love. And
and it's here in Spring Hill.
Okay, perfect.
It's at this really amazing barn down just
Okay.
right, not too far from here.
Sweet.
And it's from 11 to 12:30. And if anybody wants to join,
Okay.
join us.
RhondaVelez.com.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.